Ryan Stanton here with ACEP Frontline, and today joined with Dr. Ed Panacek, and we're going to be talking a little bit of research, ACEP Research Academy, or EMBERS. Kind of, first and foremost, tell us about yourself, give us a little background.
So I'm academician my entire career. I'm triple boarded in emergency medicine, internal medicine, and critical care medicine. I've done bench research. I've done clinical trials research. I was on faculty at Case Western Reserve in Cleveland for several years. I was at UC Davis for 20 years. I was a residency program director for the first 10 years of that residency program. And now I've been the chair of emergency medicine at the University of South Alabama for the last 10 years, where I started another residency program and was residency program director again for 3 years, just getting that started.
So a little USA action down there in Mobile, but you're very involved on the research side.
Yeah, absolutely. So my entire career has really been focused on research. I did research during my fellowship, and then I got involved with developing this new course called the EMBERS course, which is now called the Research Academy.
And we're doing the Research Academy. It's actually having session 1 here in Salt Lake City, September 5th and 6th. Session 2 is going to be in Irving, Texas, April 22nd to the 24th of this coming year. So give us a little background on it. Let's start off with just the impetus in putting this together.
Yeah, so let me take kind of a step back in a broader perspective. You know, every medical field, every medical specialty, including emergency medicine, has 3 main purposes or goals in life, right? First and foremost, of course, is clinical patient care. Second is education and training to produce the next generation of physicians to replace ourselves, hopefully do a better job of it at the time. And then the third piece is the scientific investigation research, which is critically important to form the foundation for the specialty, to form an evidence basis for all the things we do, clinical patient care, and move the specialty forward. So we're always improving and doing things better in the future. And recognizing that, I think people would argue that in terms of clinical patient care, emergency medicine is very respected, has shown its worth, and clearly has an important piece within the healthcare system. And I think when it comes to education and training, you could also argue that our residency programs and our approach to point-of-care ultrasound and simulation use is world-class. I mean, it's really way ahead of many of the other residency programs out there. But where we've lagged behind has been in the research, original investigation side. And that's been true for a long time. I'd say it's true now still, and it was true back in the 1990s when I was on the ACEP Research Committee way back then. I was actually the chair of the committee for a period of time. And that committee, and I was also on the SAM Research Committee at the same time, that committee every year had one of its main goals was to increase the quantity and the quality of emergency medicine research and researchers. And so that has pretty much continued to the current day. And so at that time, we decided that based on the teaching fellowship that ACEP had that was already in existence and was pretty popular and respected, that we could develop something similar in model to that. Similar time frame, similar structure. So we put a committee together to design this course, and we called it the EMBERS course. And John McCabe, when he was the president of ACEP, this is probably 1996, he gave some funding to get the course started. The first offering was in 1997. And in generating this course, we looked around to try to model it on something. And we thought for certain, so there was a committee that was formed, Bob Schaefer-Meyer was on it back then, Chuck Cairns was on it, and others. We thought for sure that family medicine or internal medicine or some other specialty had a similar course like this that we could learn from and model after. And we looked around and we found nothing. We were astounded that we could not find any other specialty that had a boot camp sort of course like this for us to model it after. So emergency medicine can actually take a lot of pride in being the first to actually develop this course on its own. It's not just modeled after something someone else did. And ACEP in particular can take a lot of pride in actually seeing the wisdom of getting this going and funding it to get it started. The course has gone through a lot of iterations since then. It had a very expansive curriculum back at the beginning that has evolved over time and has gotten better and better. The The course has averaged about 25 students per year, and it's been going since 1997, so over 25 years. So it's graduated about 500 graduates from it. I was just up at the academic chairs a meeting of that group, and I looked around the room, and I saw at least 10, if not 20 graduates of the Embers course that were chairs now there. And then I also looked at the litany of ACEP presidents, and there's at least 3, if not 4 or 5 presidents who took the Embers course once upon a time. So it really has quite a pedigree of people, who have taken it. Someone came up and said they thought the Embers course had probably had a greater impact on emergency medicine research than any other single thing. Because not that many people have done research fellowships. Not that many people have really focused on research careers, but the Embers course has had 500, 600 graduates in it, and many of them very, very successful.
So talk about, when we looking at metrics and things by which to measure emergency medicine, many times that has fallen short because they say we don't have emergency medicine specific research. It was a lot, especially early in emergency medicine, a lot of what we did was translation of stuff that was done either in the pre-hospital, inpatient world, critical care world, surgical world, wherever it may be. With your career in history and success with the Embers class and the Research Academy, talk about why it's so important for us to have emergency medicine-based research by emergency physicians.
Yeah, so you're absolutely correct. In fact, what you just said goes all the way back to Peter Rosen saying, this is why we couldn't get board certification. That's why we couldn't get our own specialty established within the House of Medicines. They said, you do not have a science basis. You do not have an organ system that you own. You do not have anything that's unique to emergency medicine. You're like family medicine. You're just picking pieces from everything else. And he was one of the first to point out that we need a scientific basis to establish the uniqueness of our specialty. And what Peter focused on, if you read his old editions of his book, was we are the masters of the first few hours of a patient's acute care, and that is different than the longer term care, et cetera. And we need our own unique scientific basis. When you pick information from cardiology about how to take care of chest pain, you have a literature that is focused on the diagnosis is pretty much made. They've got them on the inpatient. They're doing something, as opposed to the undifferentiated patient. So that's called spectrum bias. They see a certain narrow spectrum of patients. Emergency medicine sees the whole spectrum of chest pain and things coming in. So we clearly needed our own scientific basis. So one, it was specific to what we do and much more relevant. And two, so we wouldn't have other specialties constantly coming to us and saying, you need to do this and you need to do that because of their literature. We needed our own literature. So that was critically important. And I would argue we still need more of that. Right. The scientific foundation for emergency medicine is still questioned by other specialties at times. So it's still just as important as it was before. I think we've gotten a lot better at using an evidence basis for the things we do, and that's fueled largely by our research that we're doing now. And there's been some progress in moving the field forward without relying on cardiologists and neurologists to do that for us. So I would argue it's just as important to have a strong research base and activity now as it was in the 1990s when they originally decided we need an Embers course to increase our pool of qualified researchers. I think that need is still just about as strong now as it was then.
Well, we found that they may still question emergency medicine, but I'm going to guess they question it a lot less on nights, weekends, and holidays. I bet they trust us a fair amount. We just came out of Labor Day weekend, and I felt like we were the only thing holding the system together for the entire weekend. Kind of dive into some of the things. As mentioned, it's a 2-session course. The things that are covered, some of the topics that are covered in the sessions.
Yeah, so it started as a 2-week course, and since then it's kind of chunked down a little bit. We took a group of experts that were on the committee that originally developed this, experienced researchers, and we looked at our way through all of the things that you think you should need to be a researcher, including writing grants and proposals and being a statistician and those. And we went through a long list, and quite honestly, in the early days, that list was made up by already highly experienced, very capable researchers who had a slightly different perspective on what you needed to do in research than a novice investigator or wannabe just getting in the field. And quite honestly, we tried to overdo it back then. We tried to make them be statisticians. We tried to make them be computer database experts. We tried to make them into expert grant writers. And we realized that that was just too difficult in a 2-week course. So over the course of it, I think it took about 10 years through trial and error and feedback from the students, we chunked it down to the core things you really need to know. So what we do is we want someone coming in the course who knows almost nothing to be able to properly design a research question and understand what that entails, to develop study hypotheses relevant to that question, to design their own study protocol, and then collect data, design their own data collection forms, take that through, do some basic data analysis, what we call simple descriptive statistics, know enough about the statistical tests to talk intelligently with the statistician, to do the more complicated tests with that, how to write up the manuscript, how to draw conclusions, and then how to write an article and publish it. So we take them through that entire process. The question has come up, well, couldn't they just do that reading a book, or couldn't they just go to pick lectures out of this meeting or the Society for Academic Emergency Medicine meeting? And you could, but this course is designed not just to be a series of didactic lectures. It's a hands-on workshop. And so we have 3 pieces to it that has really worked very well. One is there's content knowledge, so we give them the content knowledge either in assigned readings or short didactic lectures, and then we have hands-on application and practice with it, and then they have to come back to the course in the second session, and they have to present either their full project proposal or their actual grant proposal for that, and that ties all the pieces together to actually have to do that. And then, fortunately, the Emergency Medicine Foundation gives the course a small grant. So one of the students in the course is going to get an EMF grant out of it and may start their pathway on extramural funding from foundations and other sources going forward, which is pretty neat.
Interestingly, I'm glad you mentioned EMF, because I was going to ask you about that. Because last night I was at the EMF reception, and I'd met several of the young researchers that were there who got kickstarted and were successful because of EMF and their careers, and really got them going now to larger opportunities. And where do you see with ACEP, Emergency Medicine, SAEM, the Research Academy and EMF combining to really jumpstart the careers of these young researchers?
Yes, I'll say I think there's probably 3 parts to your question. So first of all, with the EMBERS course, I think it's been very successful in developing a pool of more sophisticated researchers. Interestingly, emergency physicians like the Cliff's Notes version of everything. It's like, don't give me all the pathophysiology, just tell me what I need to order and then what I need to do about it and disposition. And when we first started the course, the serious researchers, if you want to consider them that, the MD PhDs, the people that did research fellowships, they were very concerned that the EMBERS course was going to dilute the pool of people interested in research fellowships, because they said, emergency physicians, if they can do a 2-week course, why the heck would they do a 1 to 2 year fellowship program? And you're going to dilute the pool, et cetera. In reality, what we have found is the opposite. That we grab a pool of individuals who have an interest in research but aren't going to do a full research fellowship. They do the EMBERS course, and the EMBERS, we had a joke, it lights a spark, an ember, to get their passion for research going. And what we have found out of the course is every single year, multiple students take that course and say, well, this was good, but I realized it just got started. And they go on and they get masters in public health and epidemiology, biostats, masters in science. So if anything, it has been more of a feeder system into getting advanced degrees, et cetera, rather than diluting it back out. So I think it has been great in that regard. In terms of, and then because of the way the class is structured and they write a grant proposal and one of them will get it, they feel much more comfortable looking at getting intramural grants. So a lot of institutions have internal grant structure capabilities to get seed funds for researchers that emergency medicine normally just didn't tap into. The internists did and the neurologists did. And so it gets them over that hump of comfort to be able to do that. That's been successful. And you mentioned the Emergency Medicine Foundation, and especially with what's going on at a federal level with NIH funding right now and other federal agency funding, it is more important than ever for the EMF to be very flush with funds to give out, because they may become the single most important initial funding source for researchers in emergency medicine, along with SAM. SAM has a foundation also, and they're viewed as complementary in many ways. I think those two foundations are more critical than ever to start research careers for emergency physicians that are interested in that.
All right, so kind of give us a wrap-up summary. Anything I didn't hit, or kind of take-home message with regard to EMBERS and the ACEP Research Academy?
Yeah, so number one, the name now is Research Academy. We don't call it EMBERS anymore,
right.
Though we did for a long time. Number two, it's become a much easier course to take because it's been moved to be aligned with the scientific assembly meetings. So we just did a course for a few days right before this, and that seemed to be very popular with people. So you don't have to go to two fly in and out of Dallas and standalone courses. You can come here now, do it, then enjoy the meeting here, and then go back home. It is simply the easiest, most effective way of getting a basic research education for emergency medicine physicians that have an interest in that.
Dr. Ed Panacek, how can folks get in touch with you, get more information? We've got the Research Academy site, acep.org/RA/course overview. So you can actually just look it up. It's very easy to look up. Just look up ACEP Research Academy, or you can look at EMBERS, EMBRS, which I think that's a pretty cool name, by the way.
Pretty cool name.
We're going to keep using it some. And you can just search on your favorite search engine. You'll find it right there. Get the information, get the dates that are available. Again, the next one is available in April. How can folks get in touch with you if they have any more questions or thoughts?
Through ACEP staff with that course. They are very good about connecting people interested with any of the course faculty, and there's a lot of excellent course faculty there.
All right, talking with Dr. Ed Panacek here at Scientific Assembly, Essay 25, regarding the ACEP Research Academy. And we are going to continue our discussion on the Research Academy as well as EMBERS. That was a great name, cool name, so we're going to continue to use it a little bit until somebody says I can't. But the Research Academy, and talking today with Dr. Alex Limkakeng.
Hi.
So I'm here at Scientific Assembly as well. So give a little background on yourself.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks, Brian, for making time, and congratulations to you on your election, of course. It's an exciting time. It's me. I'm the Vice Chair of Clinical Research at Duke University. I've been an emergency physician, practicing emergency physician for, now, painful to say, almost 20 years. And, when I came into residency, I wasn't particularly interested in research, but somewhere along the line in that process of doing that scholarly product, I got interested in it. And also the seeds were planted early in my medical school days, where I got to work with someone in the research community that is well known named Judd Hollander, a former president at SAM at University of Pennsylvania. So I got to have experience the joys and the fruits of conducting research at an early stage in my medical career, and I've been fortunate to have a lot of opportunities to participate in a lot of different research studies because of being at Duke, honestly, and because of having a lot of great collaborators and a lot of great just studies come our way that I was able to participate in. But the ACEP story, of course, as part of that, I was part of the research committee for ACEP, and I became part of the subcommittee that runs Research Forum, which is still the largest organized gathering of emergency medicine focused research studies being presented at any given time, every year. And I don't know what happened. I think like everybody else took a step back, but somehow I got nominated to lead the Research Forum. And so largely, I think through enthusiasm and having some ideas of like, hey, here's some things we could do to improve the Research Forum, I became connected to the Research Forum. And so I was director of the subcommittee for Research Forum for a couple of years. And, the Research Forum has continued to grow, and it's had some, up and down years within ACEP and then Scientific Assembly in terms of like the optimum venue and whatnot. And every year at the convention center space, it's always a question of like, where are we going to put Research Forum, and like, is it going to be too far away and stuff? One of the things we did actually was like make it all oral presentations so that it could truly just integrate into the entire Scientific Assembly. So that was really nice. But then, there's something about having like physical posters and being able to walk through and just sort of, so we brought that back. It looks like this year, so that's pretty cool. Getting to the end of the story here now. So I think in part because of my experience in Research Forum and sort of advocating for that, the folks at ACEP asked me to join the faculty in the Embers course. And, I was a student in the Embers course in about 2007, 2008. Fun fact that I keep saying, two of my classmates, can you guess who two of my classmates were?
No.
Chris Kang and Jillian Schmitz.
There you go.
Yeah, so I'm the slacker in that group, in that class. I saw Chris come on. Well, no,
there's still plenty of time, man. You can do this.
Yeah, so I've brushed elbows with 3 ACEP presidents, in the last couple of days just because of that, So Chris is still a big fan of Embers, and Jillian won I think she won the grant that year, so she was like, the VIP student of that class. And so... yeah, so that's my other claim of fame as an Embers student, is that I got to rub elbows with 2 future ACEP presidents at the same time. So, which gets to an important fact about the Embers course, and an interesting sort of shift or society. I guess I'm sure Ed has talked about how many people have taken the course over the years. And if you were to take stock of, a who's who in emergency medicine, almost everybody has taken this course. And the graduates of this course are in leadership positions everywhere, including this organization, at the highest levels. And it's a research course, but not all of those people are researchers or primarily researchers. They are finding leadership positions as residency program directors, vice chairs of education, medical directors, and increasingly a number of them are chairs of departments. Some are in the C-suite, some are in industry, some are in the military health system. So it really is a broad group of folks, of the alumni of the course. So back when I talk a little bit about the evolution of the course, which is I think why we're here. Ed's told you a little bit about the origin story and the need for the course in general, and how ACEP filled that need, and the impact of that, because so many people got this training, they got a understanding of how to do research, and whether they went on and primarily were researchers themselves or used that knowledge to advance their careers in other ways, that was impactful for a lot of people. So ACEP really did that for folks. But so the original format of the course, getting a little bit into the weeds here, Ed envisioned it as a mini fellowship. So, you do a fellowship, that's 2 years. And so it's kind of audacious to say, we're going to try to cram that into a week, right? Right. Or even 8 days. So that's already kind of audacious, like ambitious agenda, right? So I took the course in 2007 to 2008. I'm going to be totally transparent. It's like when I went to the course, my kid was crawling. When I came back, they were walking. Like literally, when I came back from the course, it seemed like so long. Literally, my kid was walking now, and I was like, "What happened? Oh my God, I've been gone so long." So it's a lot. It's a long time to ask people to take out of their schedule, right? But a lot of people were willing to do it because they found the value in it. So over the years, like from the 10s to the 20s, right? Like it's really hard, and it's getting increasingly hard to get people to ask that of people, right? And also, the whole concept of a flipped classroom really started becoming popular, and we realized, like, a lot of this content could be flipped classroom, right? We can record videos now, and everyone's kind of used to watching a video and then coming in. And the course was always interactive. There was always a highly interactive element, and we're going to try to retain that interactive element, which is what people really found valuable. And it's the most fun part of the course, right? So we're going to retain that. And so that's what we started doing around 16, 17, 18. And we were able to reduce the in-person time of the course from like 8 days down to like 4, then down to 3. And so I don't know if you're familiar, but like in 2020, this thing happened where we couldn't have in-person meetings anymore.
Yeah. A little something.
A little something.
A little cold going around.
So that shook things up a bit in terms of the course, obviously, just like everything else, right? So in 2020, obviously we didn't hold the course in Dallas at ACEP headquarters like we usually did, and we held it entirely virtually, just like everything else and like everybody else was doing, right? And still had a pretty good enrollment, but what we noticed was, from 2020 onward, right? We don't know whether it's like people got out of the habit of going to in-person meetings or courses, and or like there's a generational sort of change towards research or educational like modalities, and or there's a lot of other ways you can get your research questions, or how to do research questions answered, or how to get some research training in general. There's a couple other organizations that are helping people to do that. So over the last 4 or 5 years, we've really had to look at there's declining sort of enrollment, and was that declining interest, or was it a COVID thing and it's just a blip and it's going to come back, or was it this generational shift in attitudes towards in-person courses in general, and everyone wants to have online courses. So we've been brainstorming and trying to talk to people, and last year we decided, well, what if we made this a pre-course connected to the ACEP Scientific Assembly, because it is the biggest meeting every year. Everyone comes. We got 5,000 people here, right? And thinking about it from the participants' standpoint, like they can already, talk to their boss and say, hey, I'm going to ACEP. I just need a couple days on the front end. And, we already got a flight. We already got a hotel covered. And so from the participant standpoint, it minimizes their cost, right? And so this year we had 28 participants, which is the largest class we've had in the last 5 years. So it's obviously been kind of popular to hold it in conjunction with ACEP, and it's really been a success.
You're having the second session April coming up of 2026 down in Irving, Texas. And
that's right. Yeah, so the course has always been designed that way. So there's a fall session where you kind of get your basics in sort of designing research questions and developing a protocol. And then one of the things we've always done is have an assignment in between sessions where you're going to write a grant proposal. And in the old days, pretty much everybody actually submitted the grant to Emergency Medicine Foundation. So Emergency Medicine Foundation actually funds a grant just for the people who take this course, which is a great collaboration between ACEP and Emergency Medicine Foundation. And so they dedicate, Emergency Medicine Foundation, to their credit, they every year have dedicated both the funding resources and the reviewers to read through these grants and review them and to decide who gets the grant. And so it's a great partnership, again, between ACEP and EMF. And so, so every year now these participants, having learned the basics, it's sort of like okay, now it's time to put it into practice and submit a grant proposal. And so we come back in the spring and have a couple other additional courses to fully round out the education. And then people give presentations that kind of pitching their grants, essentially. And whether they get the grant or not, that's a valuable experience in and of itself. Like, just submitting a grant, like you learn so many things just actually putting it together. You know, the logistics of putting a grant proposal together is a whole thing, and you can take a whole course just on that, right? At each institution, it's different. There's somebody you got to talk to in your finance office. There's somebody you got to talk to in your administrative office. And then there's the actual writing of the sciencey part of the grant, right? So that's an incredibly valuable experience for the participants, that we get them to just get in there and actually do it, you know? Because this is sort of like the making of the sausage for research, right? Like, this is how research gets done. It's like people put together a grant proposal, they submit it, hopefully they get funded, and then they do the work. And so we give our participants the chance to take that first effort at doing that. So yeah, that's what the spring part happens. We round out their education a little bit, and then they give presentations. They get feedback, importantly, from their colleagues and from the faculty. So, you know, a lot of research is just that. Like, you know, I present my ideas, I listen to feedback, I improve my ideas. And so whether you're presenting or in the audience, you know, the audience members benefit from hearing these new ideas and then thinking critically about what could we do better in this research study? How could we improve the methods? What questions do you have? And so if you ask a question to the presenter, you're identifying for them, hey, here's something that you can explain better, so that when you actually submit this as a grant, or if you actually submit this as a manuscript, this is what the reviewers want to know, or these are the questions they're going to have, so you can just address it, and so they don't have that question, right?
So here, you know, that you talked about the research forum here. I think it's 874. I think was the final number.
Yeah,
this year was the third largest that we've ever had.
It's incredible.
Where have you seen, kind of as we kind of wrap up, put a bow on today, a little bit of embers and the research, your vision and what you've seen over the last 20 years in terms of the evolution of emergency medicine-based research?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the short-term trends. Of course, everybody is talking about AI and operations, and one of the trends I've seen more recently is that you're seeing a lot more operations folks, because the availability of data now is ubiquitous for medical directors and operational leaders, that you're seeing a lot more research being submitted and presented based on operational data. We're finally realizing the promise of electronic medical records, what they promised way back in, you know, the 2000s, that, you know, we're going to provide all this data for you and it's going to be, you know, usable for research. So that's just now, I think, beginning to bear fruit. And we're seeing a lot more emergency medicine investigators leading research, as opposed to a cardiologist coming in and helping an emergency physician, a neurologist coming in and helping them. We're seeing a lot more young people in emergency medicine going down that pathway of getting NIH funding. So it's a lot more, you know, career investigators, and that's exciting. You know, obviously we're also seeing increased diversity of emergency medicine investigators, and that's, you know, small d, like not only talking about racial and ethnic diversity and that, but, you know, people who come from different backgrounds, different areas of interest clinically, and you know, talking about social determinants of health. That's another big movement. And so it's no longer just, you know, what's the data that's present and available in this emergency department, but these people that live in our community, how can we improve their health, right? And so emergency medicine investigators are now answering those questions, as opposed to, you know, how do I treat this patient in front of me when they come in with chest pain? So that's pretty amazing and exciting because it kind of opens up the world of what emergency medicine even is, and it does broaden our specialties like place in the house of medicine.
All right, talking with Dr. Alex Limkakeng about the ACEP Research Academy, EMBERS, if you want the cool name. Even though it looks like just front of the page I've got right there says EMBERS is now the ACEP Research Academy. We're going to still call it EMBERS because it's a spark. All right, so how can folks get in touch with you if you have any questions?
Yes, so you can contact us. There's a website, of course, ACEP's website for Research Academy. And our staff, Marla Payne, I have to mention, she's amazing. She's great. She handles a lot of the questions about Research Academy. And I'm at Duke University, so people are welcome to reach out to me. I'm on Blue Sky, so if people want to, I don't know if it's called skeeting or tweeting anymore or whatever they call it, but if you want to yell at me there, that's great. You can catch me at Research Forum most often, which over the next 2 days we're going to be in Hall C. So.
All right, talking with Dr. Alex Limkakeng, and for us, I'll wrap up there. We got more episodes coming from Scientific Assembly here. You can contact me, rstan@acep.org, rstan@acep.org, at EverydayMed on X, as well as available on other platforms. But the most important thing, again, is make sure that you have the podcast not only saved, downloaded, and listen, because we're going to be coming out with some great content, especially from here at Scientific Assembly. Until next time, I'm Dr. Ryan Stanton, and this has been some ACEP Frontline.
And in the silence, you will show me who you are.
If you're not on the front lines, you're on the sidelines.